So we're going to be discussing concept number 4 in the 10 concepts of the therapeutic community today. And it's described this way: practicing the concept of no we-they dichotomy. Karen, can you tell me what that means?
Well, I think it speaks to all individuals are accepted and respected as being unique. Everybody comes to the table bringing something different, something personal, something of their own. All of the clients that we get, the inmates that we receive into the centers, are coming from different places, different backgrounds, different families, different ethnicities. They have different talents, different strengths. Some of them are good talkers, some of them don't talk at all. So everybody comes in at a different level. However, we try to get everybody on the same platform at some point throughout the program. And we also try to use their talents, their strengths, their ideas to help them to progress throughout treatment and just enhance the treatment experience.
So just the name of the concept kind of indicates that they have a tendency to separate into groups, us against them or we and they. Is that true?
Absolutely. All members are resources for each other in positive ways. For instance, if I need to know about certain things about life that somebody else might have experienced, that person would be able to share their story and share some of their resources that they have been involved in. And basically that would be a positive influence on my own life. We understand that we have to share. If we don't share this information, we won't be able to keep it. So the best way to keep information, I just had a conversation a few minutes ago that we discussed that education alone is not the answer. As education, as we share that information with one another, it becomes a part of who we are, because we're beginning it's something about sharing information. So that no they dichotomy is predicated on the fact that I'm unique, you're unique. I have to learn to accept you and the resources that you bring to the table, and you accept me and the resources that I bring to the table in a positive manner in terms of how we are going to help each other get past this addiction, these issues that we are dealing with as a result of the substance abuse.
You've mentioned before the characteristics of gangs and how they need the structure and the discipline. How does that apply to that mentality when you bring them into the therapeutic community?
Well, you look at the gangs, as I say, the gangs have something that we all need in life. Three things. One is structure, the other is order, and the last one is discipline. That's where we have a code of conduct that we have to abide by. And believe it or not, the gangs have a code of conduct that they abide by. It might be a negative code from our perspective, but to them, it's the code that they live by. And they have structure, which is activities that goes on. They have organized activities that they get involved with. They have order, which deals with, if you look at the gangs, they have tattoos, colors, and everything to identify who they are. So these areas, they bring to the table in a gang various resources from each other, and they share these resources with each other, and that's what's the attraction of the gangs with our young people and the gangbangers outside there. They're attracted to this type of these resources that each other brings to the table.
So Karen, what you're really trying to do then is turn some of those negatives into positives, is that it?
Yes, because when they first come into the treatment centers, what they do is they kind of group off, they kind of look for the guys that they're more familiar with, and they tend to, go towards the negativity and go revert into those gang kind of ways, and groupings. Charlie and I talk about it with the guys forming separate boxes. Everybody just falls into a different box, and you can see all the guys from Cocoa Beach and all the guys from Broward and all the guys from Brevard. They have different culture to each set of them. So what we try to do in the therapeutic community is to just have them, appreciate what each culture brings into the community and utilize it. We had a client, I just want to talk about this one guy who was the perfect example. He was a really thin, frail, kind of flamboyant guy, and he just was separate from everybody else. And nobody really gave him any credit. He didn't have any respect within the community. The bad guys, the tough guys, they kind of like, separated themselves from him. And we were having some problems in the community at one time, and this client really, out of frustration, just spoke up and took charge and just really stood in front of this community and really talked about how serious these TC concepts are and how serious his recovery was and what he needed to do, and that he wasn't going to tolerate this, what was going on. He earned so much respect. So for as different as he was and as separate as he was in the community initially, because they really just would not let him in, when he finally spoke up, he showed them that he was just like them. They accepted him wholeheartedly. He became our coordinator after that. He was wonderful.
Yeah, think about this for a moment. As you talked about that, it kind of jogged something in my memory of institutional life. If you look at the institutional life, the guys that are coming to us from the institutions, they are very separate. They separate
Right.
themselves. And you go to any institution, you'll see the blacks hanging out in one area, you'll see Hispanics hanging out in another area, and you'll see sometimes the white guys are hanging out in a different area. Very seldom you see any integration in that setting. And so when they come to us, they're required to kind of integrate with each other and not pick sides and not have a we-they type of dichotomy and separate themselves from each other. What we're saying is that the whole community is resources, and they have to understand that resources are very valuable, because you can learn something from different ethnicities and you can learn something from different age groups, and you don't separate in different age groups, you don't separate in different ethnicities or even religions as far as that concerned. You try to learn something from every individual in the treatment facility, and that's the kind of the unique thing about it, because we have this thing as addicts, we isolate and we stay away from anybody or everybody that think there might be a problem. So we want to try to hang out with people that are really think the way we think.
And that's what we help them to do from day one, Charlie. When they first come in the door, they're expected to get a haircut, tuck their shirt in, put a belt on. Like, there has to be some kind of uniformity within the center, to show them that everybody's doing the same thing. Tie your shoes, pick up your pants, shave. I mean, this is what's expected, just to get past those barriers that they put up in front of them just naturally, just because that's what they're used to.
So is it fair to say then that some of the things that they considered normal were really prejudices, and that were limiting their viewpoint on life, and maybe limiting their ability to overcome their addiction? Is that what you're working towards when you bring these guys in?
Well, absolutely, I think so. I think when you have a person that's kind of stuck in their ways and not willing to listen or share any thoughts with other people, and share behaviors and share opportunities and share kind of a shared love per se, you're going to have a person that's just unwilling to grow. And so part of, if you look back at the previous previous concepts, therapeutic concepts like self-help, mutual help, peer-led, peer-driven type communities, and then you look at the social learning, and you go back even to the one that peer pressure, using each other as an example. You can't learn if you're not willing to expand your circle of friends and your circle in your environment. So you have to kind of expand upon that in order to learn new ways of thinking and change that process of your old way of handling things and doing things.
But it also breaks past the criminal thinking. And I think that's what's really important about this concept, because if we allow them to create these separate spaces, these separate boxes, then we're kind of colluding with them. If this person's allowed in the box and this one's not, then it becomes, an us against them kind of thing.
And that's right, because in the institution we're taught to put our back up against the wall and keep everybody in front of us and only trust maybe a few people, and they're just to watch our back. Those people that we trust, but we got everybody in front of us, so we don't trust anybody. And so if you don't trust anybody, you're not willing to share their story, or you share your story with them because you are so different. You don't want to get involved in that. You have your own way of addictive thinking, if you will, or criminal thinking, is that you stay away. It's the culture of the institution, and that's how people survive in that environment.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's why it's even important for staff not to get caught up in that. That, you know, the processes that we have within the programs must be followed. Because if we go outside of that, then we're kind of aligning ourselves with the client. They got us, you know, they brought us out and they brought us into their box. And we have to show them that these boxes just can't exist. We do things one way. This is the way.
Well, let me ask you a question. One question I got to ask, because when I was a director at the Men's Center in at the Orlando Bridge, one thing I did was I sort of integrated the population. If I saw cliques, I didn't allow cliques to develop. I didn't allow. I integrated the rooms. Even the bunk beds. People of color and people of white clients, Hispanics. I didn't want them to be together unless there was a need. For instance, sometimes we have clients, like for instance, a Hispanic client that does not know how to speak English very well.
Right.
So it'll be best for us to put him with someone who of the same ethnicity to share, teach him how to speak English and to be a kind of a buddy, a big brother to that particular person. But otherwise, I try to keep them, keep the races integrated in the facility so that you can get the kind of camaraderie that's kind of the blend to make for a very positive environment for our clientele.
Right. No matter if it's in the dorms or the groups or even on the volleyball field, we have to kind of mix up the cultures, And I know that one of the things that we do is when, you get these group of maybe younger guys that are playing volleyball, and then maybe different area of guys that are playing basketball, and they're typically the ones that you'll see on the basketball court or the volleyball court. We kind of just form some competitions, and we get some, different teams going on. And they learn that, there's not a difference here. Everyone's the same. And sometimes that's in fun. Sometimes it's in group, wherever we can do it. If we have to change bed assignments, so that we can mix them up in the dorms. And even like kind of integrate the upper structure clients within the dorms, so that it's not a room full of good guys. I remember in one center we had a dorm that was called the Honor Dorm. And it was all the guys that really did something above and beyond, within programs. But everything in programs should be above and beyond. So I felt like, why are we honoring these guys? Let's bring the other guys up too. Let's honor them by having them be role models. I mean, that's a privilege enough, I didn't want to feed too much into it, so I busted up that dorm and had the honor guys spread out through the community. Because then we're creating a dichotomy, And what we have to do is just show everybody we're at different levels, we're coming from a different place, but we're all the same.
So I think if you look at some of the things that we've been discussing, and one of the things that I want to make a point here is that when our clients are integrated and share things and share their lives and share their stories and share their cultures and ethnicity and share their background, it's a positive thing because this is how our community at large look. So we're trying to get them not to be separated, but to understand that we're all in this together. And I think that's a good, positive way of looking at things.
Right, but I think it's important to realize that sometimes we make assumptions about people, and that's what happened with this one client that I was talking about before. Because of the way he looked, the community assumed that he had no core, he had nothing to him. And when the guy stepped up, they realized, he was just like everybody else. But the therapeutic community gives you that opportunity to see that, to rise to that.
But what it teaches us is even if we're not like each other, we'll still need to accept each other.
Right.
Because, even in society, you might see a person on the corner begging for a dime or nickel or whatever just to survive. but we don't look down. And I guess the key thing is that we need to accept people where they are, and basically build from that perspective with how we see people, because we are not all alike. We are different in a number of ways. So,
but we all have potential.
Absolutely,
Okay.
that's the potential. We all have the potential to be something, anything that we want to be.